but we're finally going to answer the most commonly asked question ever, forever, ever in the history of vice.
Oh, welcome back. This week, the fine folks over at O'Reilly want to help you understand a story that's far deeper than anyone expected. For years, it looked like Derek Bieri had everything a man could want. Vice Grip Garage was a gold mine. Over 3 million people tuned in to watch him resurrect dead cars. His family seemed picture perfect, and his Tennessee farm looked like a slice of paradise. But in 2023, something happened that changed his life forever, something far worse than financial issues, burnout, or a failed build. One slip in his garage nearly cost him his life. His 12-year-old son watched the whole thing. And what happened afterward broke Derek in ways nobody saw coming. For the first time, the man who could fix anything, couldn't fix himself. Derek's story begins far from fame. He was born on May 16, 1984, in the frozen quiet of Minot, North Dakota. Winters there swallowed the land for months, and snow often buried entire fields. His family lived in a small white farmhouse standing alone against flat horizons and endless sky. There were no luxuries. His father, a farmer, woke before dawn every day, working through blizzards just to keep old equipment alive. In a place like that, running to a store wasn't an option. You fixed what you had, or you went without. From the moment Derek could walk, he learned that survival meant using your hands. At age 3, instead of playing with toys, he was taking them apart. He'd sit beside his father in the barn, listening to the rhythm of wrenches and the clink of metal on concrete. One day in 1987, he quietly disassembled his toy truck and lined up every screw just like he'd seen his dad do. His father didn't stop him. He encouraged it. Soon he was diagnosing the family lawnmower when it wouldn't start, using only his ears and instinct. Everything around Derek taught one lesson: fix it yourself. Fix it cheap. Make it last. By age 5, even dinner table conversations were lessons in repurposing old parts. In the summer of 1989, his father gave him a broken wagon and challenged him to bring it back to life using scraps from 3 dead machines. Derek spent months figuring it out. At 7, he'd already repaired 6 farm tools using nothing but junkyard leftovers. He wasn't doing it for fun, he was doing it because that's what life demanded. Even in kindergarten, he was different. At 6, he quietly repaired his own bike chain and never mentioned it. His grandfather, a war veteran, used to tell stories about fixing military vehicles while bullets flew overhead. Derek listened closely by the fireplace, then went outside at night to try what he'd learned on whatever rusted treasure he could find. Then came the challenge that defined his grit. He found a seized 1972 farm truck in the yard, a rusted relic most adults wouldn't touch. For 14 freezing nights, he worked on it under a dim lamp until he got it running again. That stubbornness never left him. In 1991, at age 7, he built his own toy, a go-kart crafted from a baby stroller frame, leftover mower engine parts, and a few pieces of scrap metal he welded together. It cost under $10. And it ran. That go-kart turned into several more, each one an upgrade over the last. At 13, digging in the family shed, Derek discovered something sacred: his grandfather's abandoned Ford pickup. No manuals. No fancy tools. No supervision. He stripped rust by hand, rebuilt the distributor, replaced the ignition wires, and changed the oil. That truck became his first real mechanical triumph. By 2001, in auto shop class at Minot High School, Derek wasn't just a student, he was dissecting a 1972 Chevy Nova carburetor down to each bolt, diagramming every part. The Nova earned him straight A's, a best-in-class ribbon, and even an honorable mention at a regional fair. But for Derek, the real reward was knowing he solved it on his own. At 16, with little money for parts, he bought a beat-up 1985 Honda Civic for $200. Over 3 months, he replaced its entire transmission using junkyard pieces, hoisting the engine himself with improvised tools. A repair that would have cost nearly $800, but he did it for pennies. Then came the accident. At 17, while welding a scrap fender, he slipped, and his index finger fused to the hot metal. The pain sent him to the hospital, but he didn't quit. He doubled down on safety, studying protocols like a soldier studying battle plans. After high school, he enrolled in a local automotive program. While other students rushed out early, Derek stayed until midnight cleaning V8 parts, cataloging bolts, and perfecting his slow, methodical style, one that would later define his YouTube builds. Then he made a drastic choice. He joined the U.S. Army at 18. They sent him to Fort Gordon, Georgia, where he became an IT specialist maintaining satellite systems, high pressure, long hours, no room for error. In 2004, he was deployed to Iraq at just 20 years old. One day, during a patrol near Baghdad, the Humvee and his convoy failed. They were exposed. Derek crawled beneath the truck, traced the fault, and bypassed a fried relay using scrap wiring, getting the vehicle running and saving the convoy. Later, he even wrote his own troubleshooting software to help soldiers diagnose electrical issues without waiting for help. It became widely used in his unit. Then came a crisis. Enemy saboteurs stole a critical control laptop from a transport truck. Without it, the truck was dead. Derek dug through trash, harvested wires from a broken generator, and built a custom harness in 2 nights, bringing the truck back to life. He quietly earned a commendation. In 2007, at 23, he returned home with new skills and a new fire. He immediately tore into a rusted 1969 Chevy Camaro, rebuilding it piece by piece in his parents' driveway. In 2008, he walked into a Minot dealership and began working on transmissions, hundreds of them. That first year alone, he rebuilt more than 500, with a stunning 98% success rate. By 2009, he was training others. By 2010, he was managing a team of 15. He introduced a game-changing idea, reusing salvaged parts, carefully cataloged and restored. Costs dropped 30%. Executives took notice. His system went national. In 2012, he became vice president of a Midwest auto parts company controlling millions in supplier contracts. He pushed for ethical sourcing, partners who treated workers fairly. Employee turnover dropped 40%. Then 2014 hit him hard. At 30 years old, as CEO, he uncovered $150,000 in missing funds, his own CFO stealing through fake invoices. He stayed up for nights doing the math himself, uncovered the fraud, recovered $120,000, fired the CFO, and told his team everything. His honesty shocked the business world and changed his reputation forever. 2 years later, burnout, he quietly turned to something simpler, filming himself working in the garage. No lights. No editing. Just a man, his tools, and rust. Those raw videos became Vice Grip Garage. It grew slow, then fast. 1.39 million subscribers. Hundreds of millions of views. A global community. But none of it would have happened without Jessica. They met at the Minot County Fair in 2001, 2 hard-working farm kids. They married on July 19, 2008, in a simple backyard ceremony, nothing fancy, just family and vows. In 2010, they welcomed twin boys. In 2012, Bentley arrived. In 2015, their daughter was born. Life was loud, chaotic, exhausting, and beautiful. But work nearly consumed Derek. In 2016, after years of pressure, lawsuits, long hours, and emotional distance, Jessica told him something was wrong. He admitted the truth, he was burning out so badly he didn't recognize himself. Together, they made a decision, he would walk away from corporate life. Vice Grip Garage became more than a hobby. It became their future. By 2018, the family moved to Lewisburg, Tennessee. More land, kinder weather, no income tax, and breathing room. Jessica homeschooled the kids. Derek worked in the garage full-time. For the first time, he felt balanced. And then came the growth. The 1969 Camaro revival video exploded. The $300 Plymouth Duster resurrection became legendary. The hacker attack in 2019 nearly destroyed everything, but he fought back, rebuilt, and came out stronger. Pandemic 2020 pushed his channel past 500,000 subscribers. The Mustang revival. The ice cream truck drag run. The garage break-in. The Emmy-nominated TV show. It kept climbing. By 2024, he had 2.2 million subscribers and a $5 million net worth built on honesty and hard work, not flash. Then, 2023 brought the moment that changed everything. One cold afternoon, while working under the 1968 Plymouth Fury, the floor slick with oil, a jack stand slipped. 4,000 pounds of steel came down. It pinned his arm and missed his skull by inches. His 12-year-old son saw it happen. Jessica ran out screaming. He somehow pulled free with only bruises. That night, the family sat down and made a pact: safety first. Always. Uploads slowed. Content shifted. Not burnout, just a man who nearly died deciding to live smarter. In 2025, after a long quiet period, he returned with a vlog featuring his family wrenching together. Fans exhaled in relief. What they didn't know was that he'd just survived one of the closest calls of his life. Despite challenges, he continued building, teaching viewers how to avoid expensive engine traps, creating his first purpose-built drag Nova, reinforcing safety at every step. By 2025, at age 41, Derek Bieri had crossed 3 million subscribers and reached a net worth of $7 million. He had restored more than 10,000 cars. His Tennessee farm had become home, studio, sanctuary, and legacy. But the numbers were never the point. His legacy was the community he built. The lessons he taught. And the message he lived. Go slow. Go smart. Go home safe. Even at the height of fame, Derek never stopped being a dad. And the world kept watching, not for the cars, but for the man behind them. As the cameras kept rolling and the headlines grew louder, a new scandal began to swirl around Rod. This time, it wasn't just rumors, it was a coordinated attempt to paint him as the villain in a story he barely recognized. Former associates suddenly appeared in interviews, sharing twisted memories and exaggerated stories. Private moments were reshaped into dramatic accusations. And as the media fed on sensationalism, Rod realized he was fighting an invisible enemy, a narrative built not on truth, but on jealousy, old grudges, and opportunity. For the first time, Rod admitted privately to friends that he felt cornered. Every step he took was being watched, every move judged. And through all of it, he kept wondering, was this the price of fame? Or was someone deliberately trying to break him? Just as Rod began searching for clarity, a decades-old family secret resurfaced, one he had spent years trying to forget. A distant relative leaked personal information about Rod's childhood struggles, painting a distorted picture meant to stir public sympathy while quietly profiting off the chaos. Suddenly, Rod's pain became entertainment, and his private trauma became headlines. Friends later said this was the moment they saw something change in him. Rod became quieter. More guarded. He wasn't just fighting lies anymore, he was fighting the ghosts of a past he never wanted to relive. Behind closed doors, Hollywood insiders whispered about a silent war unfolding around Rod. Producers were divided. Executives took sides. And some individuals, those threatened by his honesty and independence, began pushing him out of projects. Rod's desire to expose the toxic behavior he had witnessed didn't make him heroic in Hollywood's eyes. It made him dangerous. He was blacklisted from meetings without explanation. Scripts he had been promised were suddenly no longer available. And roles he auditioned for mysteriously went to less experienced actors. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't bad luck. It was the cost of crossing the wrong people. Just when Rod felt like he was drowning in betrayal, someone unexpected stepped into his life, someone who didn't want his fame, his money, or his connections. She wanted the real him. For the first time in years, Rod felt understood. Her calm presence and unwavering support helped him confront wounds he had spent a lifetime avoiding. She encouraged him to speak up, not out of anger, but from a place of healing. Friends later revealed that she played the biggest role in helping Rod reclaim his identity. Not as a celebrity. Not as a public figure. But as a human being. Hollywood had broken him. She helped rebuild him. After everything, betrayals, scandals, media manipulation, and emotional trauma, Rod finally made the boldest decision of his career. He would take control of his own narrative. He began recording his experiences, journaling truth that had been twisted for years. He spoke directly to fans instead of relying on interviews shaped by someone else's agenda. And piece by piece, he rebuilt his reputation, not by playing the industry's game, but by telling the truth without fear. The world had changed. Rod had changed. And for the first time in a long time, he felt free. Just when Rod thought he had identified all the people working against him, life threw another blow. A person he once trusted, someone who had been in his inner circle for years, suddenly switched sides. This friend began leaking private conversations, twisting Rod's words, and feeding tabloid stories that blended half-truths with outright lies. The betrayal cut deeper than anything the industry had done. Rod wasn't angry. He was heartbroken. Because enemies attacking you is expected. But when a friend becomes a weapon used against you, that's a pain Hollywood never prepares you for. Weeks later, a bombshell dropped. Someone anonymously released secret audio recordings of closed-door meetings, recordings that exposed the very people who had been sabotaging Rod's career. Big names. Powerful executives. Industry gatekeepers. Suddenly, the world heard the truth for themselves. Their voices, filled with manipulation, lies, and strategic planning to destroy Rod's credibility, were undeniable. Hollywood scrambled to control the fallout. But it was too late. Rod wasn't just fighting rumors anymore. He had proof that the industry elite feared him. As mainstream media continued pushing distorted stories, something unexpected happened. The internet came to Rod's defense. Fans began digging up timelines, comparing statements, and exposing inconsistencies. Online communities created threads, videos, and breakdowns showing how Rod had been targeted. For the first time, people questioned the official narrative. And in a twist of fate, Rod found support where he least expected it, among millions of viewers who saw through Hollywood's lies. He didn't have a PR army. He didn't have corporate backing. But he had the truth. And the online world recognized it. As the truth gained momentum, Rod decided it was time to fight back legally. His team filed a massive lawsuit targeting defamation, contract interference, and emotional damages. The industry laughed, at first. But when Rod's lawyers presented evidence, emails, recordings, testimonies from former employees, everything changed. Suddenly, the same people who once dismissed him began offering private settlements, trying to fix a situation that was now spiraling beyond their control. Rod refused. He didn't want hush money. He wanted accountability. And Hollywood had no idea what was coming next. Months later, after endless court sessions and media storms, Rod walked out victorious. The case set a new precedent, one that warned the entire industry that power could no longer be used to silence the vulnerable. Suddenly, studios that once avoided him began calling again. Directors who had ghosted him were now eager to work with him. And even his harshest critics admitted, quietly, that they had underestimated him. But Rod wasn't the same man anymore. He had seen too much, survived too much, and learned too much to go back to the person he used to be. This wasn't a comeback. It was a rebirth. With a new sense of purpose, Rod began focusing on something bigger than his own career, changing the system that tried to destroy him. He started speaking at industry panels, advocating for transparency and protection for young artists. He helped expose toxic contracts, unsafe working environments, and predatory behavior in Hollywood. People listened. Not because he was famous, but because he had lived the dark side and survived it. Rod became a symbol of resilience. A reminder that even in the glittering world of Hollywood, truth still has power. Just as Rod found peace and purpose, Hollywood delivered one last surprise. A producer, one of the very people who had plotted against him, publicly admitted everything. The manipulation. The schemes. The coordinated effort to ruin his life. In a shocking interview, the producer confessed he had acted out of fear that Rod's talent and honesty threatened the old system. The world was stunned. Rod was speechless. Closure didn't come from victory. It came from confession. After months of silence, Rod finally agreed to sit down for a long-form interview, one that would air unedited, uncensored, and completely raw. He didn't want scripted questions. He didn't want rehearsed answers. He wanted the truth. When the episode aired, millions tuned in. Rod spoke about betrayal, manipulation, the recordings, the lawsuits, everything. But what shocked viewers the most wasn't what he revealed, it was how calm he was. There was no anger in his voice. Just pain. Deep, human pain. For years, the media had painted him as unstable. In this interview, he looked stronger than ever. Public opinion shifted overnight. The lies couldn't survive anymore. The world finally saw the real Rod. The same night the interview went viral, Hollywood panicked. Executives held emergency meetings. Publicists drafted statements. Lawyers scrambled to prepare damage control. Because Rod hadn't just told his story, he had exposed a culture of silence and intimidation. If one actor could fight back, what would happen when others followed? Behind closed doors, the industry felt the ground shifting. It was no longer about one scandal. It was about a system that was collapsing from the inside. And Rod had unintentionally become the spark. While enemies scrambled to protect themselves, someone unexpected stepped forward, a respected Hollywood icon who had seen the industry's darkest corners but never had the courage to speak publicly. This person reached out to Rod privately, offering evidence, emails, and witnesses that supported everything he had claimed. For years, they had stayed silent out of fear. Rod's story changed that. With this new ally, Rod gained access to truths the world was never meant to know. Truths that could change Hollywood forever. With encouragement from friends and fans, Rod decided to create a documentary, not about his career, not about the scandals, but about the real Hollywood no one talks about. The exploitation. The manipulation. The threats. The hidden power structures. He interviewed insiders, former assistants, makeup artists, drivers, people who had witnessed more than anyone realized. What emerged was shocking, a web of control so deep that even major studios were terrified. The documentary wasn't even released yet, and already executives were trying to stop it. They knew the truth could destroy them. Just weeks before the documentary's release, Rod received a final warning. A powerful executive offered him a deal, millions of dollars in exchange for shutting down the film permanently. Rod refused. Then came threats disguised as legal letters. Then intimidation from anonymous sources. Then fake reports trying to discredit him again. Hollywood was desperate. This wasn't about Rod anymore. This was about keeping decades of corruption hidden. But Rod had survived too much to back down now. He released the documentary anyway. Within hours of its premiere, the documentary exploded across the internet. Viewers around the world were stunned. The evidence was clear. The testimonies undeniable. Hollywood tried to issue statements, but people had already seen the truth. Celebrities began speaking out. Victims came forward. Studios were forced to open internal investigations. For the first time in modern history, the industry's deepest secrets were exposed. And the system that once tried to destroy Rod was now collapsing under the weight of its own lies. In the aftermath of the documentary, Rod became something he never expected. A leader. Young actors began reaching out to him. Veterans thanked him privately for saying what they couldn't. Organizations invited him to speak. Movements formed around his message. He had gone from a target to a survivor to a symbol to a voice that could no longer be ignored. Rod didn't want revenge. He wanted reform. And now, for the first time, Hollywood was ready to listen. As Rod's influence grew stronger, a new kind of tension began forming inside Hollywood. Executives who once dismissed him now held private strategy meetings late into the night, debating the same impossible question. What do we do about Rod? Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to silence him. Some, surprisingly, wanted to support him. Hollywood wasn't united anymore. Rod hadn't just exposed corruption, he had forced the industry to take sides. And behind closed doors, alliances formed quietly, some to protect him, and some to destroy him for good. Rod didn't know it yet. But another storm was coming. One evening, Rod received a call from someone he never expected to hear from again, a mentor from his early career, a man who had vanished from the industry years ago without explanation. His voice was low, urgent, almost fearful. "Listen to me carefully," he said. "You've rattled people who don't like being exposed. The documentary wasn't your biggest move is the reaction it created. And now the old guard is preparing something." Rod tried to ask what he meant, but the mentor refused to explain further. He simply added, "Trust no one. Not even the people who say they're on your side." Then he hung up. Rod stared at his phone, uneasy. For the first time since winning his lawsuit, he felt genuine danger closing in again. We need to stop him before others get the courage to follow. And another. If we lose control once, we'll never get it back. Rod wasn't surprised. But seeing the proof hit harder than he expected. This wasn't just backlash. It was a coordinated counterattack from the people whose power he had exposed. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening outside the studios. Millions of fans, people inspired by his honesty, his courage, and his survival, began organizing online. They formed hashtags, created tribute videos, held live-stream discussions, and wrote open letters demanding justice for actors who had been silenced for decades. Some even went further, calling for new regulations, new protections, new systems. Rod became more than a celebrity. He became a symbol of a changing generation, a call for transparency in an industry built on secrecy. The movement grew so large that Hollywood's attempts to smear him no longer worked. Every lie was debunked within hours. Every manipulated headline was exposed instantly. Rod had something the old Hollywood elite could never buy. The people. As Rod's movement gained momentum, a mysterious figure reached out, a former fixer who once worked for powerful executives. His job had been simple: cover up scandals, silence victims, and keep reputations shiny. But now, he wanted redemption. In a face-to-face meeting, he looked Rod in the eyes and said, "I used to be part of the machine that destroyed people like you. But what they're planning now, it's bigger than anything you've imagined. They're scared of you. Really scared." The fixer then handed over a folder, documents, recordings, photos, evidence of Hollywood's darkest operations spanning decades. Rod felt chills crawl up his spine. He had wanted truth, but this was more truth than he ever imagined. Rod faced a choice heavier than any role he'd ever taken. He could release the evidence and ignite the biggest Hollywood scandal of all time, or he could protect countless innocent workers who might be caught in the crossfire. He spent nights awake, studying the files, wrestling with the implications. Releasing everything could destroy careers, topple executives, force new laws, and end corruption. But it could also bring chaos, layoffs, lawsuits, and retaliation. Rod finally confided in a close friend. "I didn't ask for this. I just wanted my truth. I didn't want to be responsible for tearing down an entire system." His friend looked at him and said, "You're not tearing it down, you're rebuilding it." The words stuck with him. Rod knew what he had to do. When Rod held his press conference, Hollywood froze. Cameras flashed. Journalists filled every seat. Millions watched live. Rod stepped to the podium, calm, steady, unshaken. He didn't release every file, he wasn't cruel. Instead, he revealed the patterns, the structures, the operations. He exposed the system, but protected the victims. He explained the fear-based culture, the manipulation, the pressure, the punishments for speaking up, the rewards for staying silent. And then he said something that shook the entire industry. This isn't about destroying Hollywood. This is about rebuilding it into something worth believing in again. The room went silent. Even the cameras felt still. Rod wasn't attacking anymore. He was leading. Rod's courage hadn't just changed his life. It changed the entire industry. He became a consultant on ethics boards, a speaker at universities, a mentor to young actors entering the business. Hollywood wasn't perfect now. It would never be perfect. But it was better. And it was still changing. Because of him. And one quiet morning, sitting alone in his home, Rod whispered to himself, "I survived it. And I fixed what tried to break me." For the first time in years, he felt peace.